filthy swines! Get in here, sit down, behave yourselves. We're going to read some stuff. If you like it, stick around. If you don't, well, you could always bog off. It's up to you. Anyway, an interesting clash we've seen between ideologies lately can be seen in what's been going on in Germany, and particularly President Trump's criticism of Germany a few years ago in the UN, when he warned them that they were heading towards a dependency on, I think, Russian oil, and their enthusiasm with deactivating all of their nuclear power plants was actually a national security issue for them. And then recently, it seems as if they seem to be doing a 180 on that desperation to deindustrialize, and it seems like such a reckless ideology to think that you could turn your nation into postmodern hellhole and it would still be fine. All going to be subsiding on wind power and solar and whatever, when it's all very unreliable. Anyway, with AI being so crucial to our futures and so power hungry, the question is, from this article on TechCrunch, written by Tim Deschamps, what will power the grid in 2035? The race is wide open. AI's insatiable demand for power has tech companies hunting for new energy sources, a search that has fueled competition and investment into fusion and fission startups. For many, natural gas is the easy answer for 24/7 baseload power. It's tested, inexpensive, and widely available. But the war in the Middle East exposed its vulnerable supply chain after Iranian drone strikes took out a significant portion of natural gas infrastructure in Qatar, a major exporter. At the same time, surging demand has created a waitlist for gas turbines so long that today's orders probably won't be fulfilled until the early 2030s. Those delays not only pose a risk to tech companies, but also to the natural gas industry itself. In the US, 40% of the natural gas consumed today goes toward generating electricity. By the time the turbine shortages relent, the industry could be flushed with a fresh crop of competitors. Both small modular nuclear reactor startups and fusion power startups plan to start connecting their first commercial power plants to the grid in the next 5 years to 7 years, about how long it takes to get parts for a new natural gas power plant. Really? Why does it take that long? SMR startups might have the best shot at displacing natural gas power plants. In many instances, the technology tweaks the design of existing fusion reactors, but the fundamental physics has been proven and widely used for decades. Several SMR companies aim to have reactors up and running before the decade is over. Kairos Power, which counts Google as a future consumer, is one of them. The company received approval for its Hermes 2 decommissioned reactor in 2024, and construction is well underway. Oklo, which merged with Sam Altman's blank check company in 2024, is targeting 2028 for its first commercial operations, according to its annual report. Others hope to follow a few years later. X Energy, which counts Amazon as an investor, is aiming for the early 2030s, while the Bill Gates-founded TerraPower, which has a deal with Meta, is planning to begin commercial operations in 2030. That's a bit of a scary name for a power company, TerraPower. Oh my goodness, you're going to harness people's screams like Monsters Inc. Maybe. To displace natural gas as the generating source of choice, SMRs will need to scale quickly, realizing the economies of scale that the business models depend on. That won't be easy, but tech companies appear confident enough that they're either investing in startups or signing agreements with them for gigawatts worth of power. The other technology companies are warming to is fusion power. Though it isn't as proven as fission, nuclear fusion promises to deliver large amounts of power using little more than seawater as fuel. Fusion startups are also targeting the early 2030s or sooner to deploy their first reactor, fusion power. They keep going on about fusion. It's an apparent white elephant that has been going on and on since I remember. Oh, look at these wonderful big metallic donuts. We've got this plasma in there and it's taking more power to keep running than it actually generates. So are we expecting breakthroughs here? One front runner, Commonwealth Fusion Systems, is on track to flip the switch on its demonstration reactor next year. Its first commercial reactor, the 400 megawatt ARC, is expected to start generating power in Virginia in the early 2030s. Is that fusion? an actual fusion reactor that makes more power than it takes to run. Another startup, a relative newcomer, hopes to start construction on a grid-scale power plant in 2030. Inertia Enterprises has based its technology on the reactor design employed by the National Ignition Facility, which was the first to prove that controlled nuclear fusion reactions could generate more power than they consume. But helium may have the most aggressive timeline out of them all. The Sam Altman-backed startup is racing to build Orion, its first commercial-scale power plant, by 2028 to supply Microsoft with electricity. The company is also reportedly in talks with OpenAI to provide up to 5 gigawatts by 2030 and 50 gigawatts by 2035. To hit those numbers, Helion would have to build 800 reactors by the end of the decade and another 7,205 years after that. If the startup can deliver power in those quantities, it would completely rewrite the energy market. Last year, the US added 63 gigawatts of new generating capacity across all sources. If Helion can build close to 10 gigawatts of new capacity every year, the company alone would add more power than the entire natural gas industry did last year. So one interesting thing to note is you may have some very sophisticated neural networks and algorithms and whatnot, but if you don't have the power to scale, then you won't be able to maximize on those gains. So interestingly, that these planned unfoldings of new power plants seem to be targeting 5 to 10 years from now, which seems to go in line with a lot of the talk of AGI and superintelligence in the next 5 to 10 years. So perhaps part of the problem for AGI and superintelligence is the scaling of these technologies, which is dependent upon power requirements. Just my guess. The challenge for all those companies, including gas turbine manufacturers, is cost. SMR startups are counting on mass manufacturing to drive down cost reductions, but that hypothesis has yet to be proven. Today, nuclear power is one of the most expensive forms of new generating capacity at around $170 per megawatt hour. According to Lazard, fusion faces a similar scale-up challenge, though it faces even more unknowns. Some experts predict 1 megawatt hour from a fusion power plant could run about $150 initially. So more efficient than fission power then. New baseload natural gas power plants, meanwhile, run at about $107 per megawatt hour per Lazard, though prices have been trending up in recent years, perhaps setting it on a collision course with both new fission and fusion reactors. But they might all be undercut by renewables paired with batteries. The cost of wind and solar power have dropped precipitously over the last decade. Wind power appears to have hit a bit of a plateau in recent years, but solar prices continue to inch downward with no signs of stopping. Batteries, too, have grown cheaper over the years to the point where grids are installing massive quantities of them. 58 gigawatt hours last year. Even without subsidies, solar paired with batteries ranges from 50 to 130 per megawatt hour, overlapping fusion, fission, and natural gas. But the good thing about solar is you could have it on a much smaller local basis, so you could put solar panels on your roof in your yard and you could power your utilities that way. Those figures are all with current battery technology derived from chemistries intended for electric vehicles. Newer designs aimed squarely at grid connections could slash prices further. From Energy, for example, recently signed a deal to provide Google with electricity from a 30 gigawatt hour iron air battery. Another, XL Batteries, can repurpose old oil tanks to store its inexpensive organic fluid. The size of the battery is only limited by the size and number of the tanks. Because those new batteries eschew the use of critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, they promise to dramatically reduce the cost of long-duration energy storage to the point where it's hard to make a case for anything else. Well, there we go. There's Tim Deschamps. Thank you, sir. That was a good article. Well, it seems as if natural gas is still viable for the next decade. Fusion all seems very sci-fi and fanciful, but if you're going to have colonies on the moon bases and such, you need a way to power them that isn't going to require some combustible energy. So natural gas, not a good idea for those situations. Fission, maybe. Fusion, I hear so much about there being natural resources on the moon that could be used for nuclear fusion. So And perhaps that's the direction we're going in. And they'll be running those power plants on the moon within the next decade. I'm going to look keenly on what's going on there. And whatever's going on here, I think this is in par with the algorithmic developments that have been going on in AI. And a lot of these things are going to require scaling, particularly if you want to saturate this kind of AI admin democracy and bureaucracy and whatever. It needs to be everywhere. Everyone needs to be able to get at it and be admined by it. So you're going to need a lot of energy production, but we shall see. Sticking with the gas for now, but maybe nuclear is the way to go. But that is it for now. Make sure you hit that like button, share the stream, say kind words, and the only thing I have left to say is Pigwig out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, wee, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, wee, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, wee, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, wee, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal. Snort, snuffle, oink, re, squeal, re, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, re, squee, snort, oink, squeal, oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, re, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 re,